get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Loronda Giddens. I'm a keynote speaker. I'm an author and a lifestyle strategist. And I'm wearing this wonderful shirt this evening. And I don't know if you all know it or not, but October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I am a 6-year breast cancer survivor. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about being a breast cancer survivor and kind of what happened during that process and what happened after the process. And I use the word process because it really was a process. It was a very rough process. But as you can see, I got through it, and I'm here, and I'm living, and I'm breathing, and here to tell my story and to share my story with hopes of it will help someone to heal and to be able to help people who have not gone out and gotten their mammograms. It's very important that you do that. So I'll just start from back in high school. How many of you have had a high school sweetheart? I'm sure everybody in here has had a high school sweetheart. My high school sweetheart was psychology. And psychology was something that I really fell in love with when I was in high school. But unfortunately, my mother made me break up with psychology because she said, you're not going to make any money in that field, so you need to study something else. So regrettably, I started studying business. I really wasn't into business. And so about after a year, I said, you know what, I'm not going to study business anymore. I'm going to go into the Army. So I decided to go into the Army. I got on a plane and went to Germany and was in Germany for about 2.5 years. And when I came back to the United States, I said, well, you know what? I really have to go back to school and get my degree. So I started studying business courses again. But remember, my true love was psychology. So I started studying business courses, and it just wasn't working out for me. And for about 15 years, I was a corporate professional, and I, did very well in corporate. But there was something inside of me that was just missing. There was something greater calling me, and I really didn't know what that was. So I decided to move to Atlanta from Florida about 20 years ago. Actually, I'm celebrating my 20th year in Atlanta this year. And I decided that I really needed to pursue the psychology, something that I really love. But I wasn't quite sure how to make that shift from the corporate environment over to social services working in that field. So it just so happened that a volunteer opportunity came about, and I just started to volunteer with at-risk youth, volunteered at a group home, but I was still working in corporate. And then one day I got laid off from that job. And then I found myself working in the field of psychology. Now remember, psychology was my high school sweetheart. So now I'm on this road of pursuing what I loved, and I started taking psychology courses and finishing up my bachelor's degree. And I was in my final year of graduate school in 2012. I was graduating in December 2012, but in April of 2012, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So here I was at the place in my life where I was almost at the point where I could achieve getting that degree in psychology. I was getting a forensic psychology degree in psychology, and it was just something that I really wanted badly. But in April of 2012, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Graduation date was December 2012. And it was just one of those things where I was working 2 full-time jobs, and I was in graduate school in my final year, and my entire life just stopped. And when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, it was one of those things where you hear about these things on TV or radio. These things happen to other people. They don't really happen to you. So in that moment, I didn't really know what to do. And the only thing I could do was just stop everything that I was doing. And the year prior to me being diagnosed with breast cancer, every single year I would go and I would get my mammograms, but the year prior to me being diagnosed, the doctors found some calcifications in my left breast, and they put a chip inside of my breast, and they said, well, we're just going to watch it for a year and see what happens when you get your mammogram next year. So when I went back to get my mammogram the following year, those calcifications started to move together, and they had grown into the size of a pea. So it had grown to a size of a pea. I was diagnosed with stage 0 breast cancer, which is ductal carcinoma in situ, which simply means that I had breast cancer inside of my milk ducts. And we all have calcification. We all have calcium in our breast, but these particular calcium deposits decided to kind of move together, and it turned out to be breast cancer. So here I am in my final year of graduate school, waiting for that degree, and I had some decisions to make fairly quickly. And the morning that I was diagnosed, I was actually on my way to work, and I had already gone and had the biopsy and all of that, driving on my way to work, and they called me, picked up the phone, and the nurse said, Ms. Giddens, you have stage 0 breast cancer. She started to explain everything. And it was kind of one of those surreal moments where you hear someone talking, but it's almost as if you're having this out-of-body experience. That person is telling you all these different things and all these different options that you can have, but none of it resonated with me. It just didn't. It's like I just didn't hear anything. So when I hung up the phone with her, I immediately called my director and told her what was going on. And she said, Loronda, just get here. And literally when I got to the office, I walked in and, walked in the door, and I completely fell apart. I fell apart in that moment because I didn't know what else to do. So, we talked, we had conversation, probably for about an hour or so. And then I went home and I called my mom and I told her what was going on. And of course, you cry, you go through these different things when things happen to you. And I fell apart. I just literally fell apart that day. But after I pulled myself together and I did the thing that you probably shouldn't do, I went on WebMD and I started looking up all these different things, all these diagnoses and what could happen and what are the possible treatments, all these different things I was doing. And I finally went to Oprah.com and I started reading women's stories of how they went through breast cancer and what type of treatment they had. And I just made a decision that day what I wanted to do. So the breast cancer was, like I said, the size of a pea. So I could have had the option of simply, having the surgery, having them go in and just do a lumpectomy and just take it out. But I thought about my quality of life and what I wanted my life to look like. And I really didn't want my life to be going in and out of the doctor's office every 3 months, 6 months, or however often I would have had to go. So I decided to have a bilateral mastectomy, meaning they took all the breast tissue out of my breast and they put in expanders. And the expanders were put in during the surgery, the first surgery that I had, in order to expand the breast tissue and to expand the pocket so they can come back later and put in the implants. But it's very important to get your mammograms. We'll kind of continue on with the story, but I just want to stress the importance of getting your mammograms. And even if they find something in that mammogram, you have to follow up with your treatment. So regardless of how fearful you are about breast cancer and what the implications of that is, you have to follow up. And at the time that I was diagnosed, I knew someone else and I didn't feel a lump. First of all, I didn't feel any lumps. I didn't have breast cancer in my family. So there were no indications that I would be, a candidate for breast cancer. So at the time, there was someone that I knew. She actually felt a lump in her breast, but she was too afraid to go to the doctor to find out what it was. And to this day, this is 6 years later, I don't even believe that she went to the doctor to figure out what it was. But one of the things I told her was she would always carry her cell phone in her bra, and I told her, you need to take that cell phone out of your breast pocket because you don't know what could have caused that lump in your breast. So I don't know if she ever took heed to that advice or not, and I don't really know if she ever sought treatment. But I have met several women, anytime I go and speak and I tell my story about breast cancer, people always come up to me afterwards and tell me either they found a lump or they went to the doctor and they were diagnosed, but they were too afraid to go back for the treatment. So in that day that I was diagnosed, I made a decision that same day that I was going to have the bilateral mastectomy. And my doctor really tried to talk me out of it because he thought it would be a simple procedure to just go in and do the lumpectomy. But I really wanted my quality of life to, be in such a way that I didn't have to be in the doctor's office. So fast forward to being diagnosed in April of 2012. Graduation date was December 2012. So in between April and December, I had 2 major surgeries, and I had 4 research papers, major research papers that I had to do. I had several presentations I had to do in front of my class in order to graduate. So when I went to the chairperson of my forensic psychology program, he said, well, Loronda, you really could wait until May of 2013 to graduate. And I said to him, you don't understand how important this degree in psychology is to me. I said, I'm just going to push through and I'm going to make it. He said, whatever you need, we'll be here to support you. And everyone around me was very supportive. My coworkers were very supportive. My family was very supportive. And I just literally pushed through, got the surgeries done, and then I graduated in December of 2012. and it was just one of the most important days of my life. But after receiving that degree, I had some major expectations of my agency. I had some major expectations of myself because I'm feeling now I've got this master's degree in forensic psychology. I feel like, okay, I can have any job that I want. And I really wanted to go to Washington, D.C. to work for the FBI or CIA or some agency like that. But every time I would send a resume or send an inquiry, I didn't get anything. And I was sending resumes and inquiries to so many different places. And then all of a sudden I said, you know what, obviously there's something else greater at work here. There's something else that I should be doing with my life. And I just stopped. I stopped sending resumes and I just sat still. I sat still and I listened for what the next right move was for my life. I didn't know what that was. Let me take a drink of water here for a minute, you guys. I didn't know what the next right move for my life was going to be, but I knew that what I was doing, there was a greater calling on my life, and there was something else that I was supposed to be doing with my life. So, like I said, I sat still for a while, probably for about maybe 3 or 4 months. And a friend of mine was having a women's retreat up in the mountains, and it was a spiritual cleansing retreat, and I decided to go to that retreat. And one of the things that I found out while I was at that retreat was I didn't allow myself the time to properly grieve the loss of my breast. That just never occurred to me. I just had no idea that that's something that had to happen. I knew that prior to me going to that retreat, I was feeling depressed and just feeling down and not really understanding why, not really understanding the full implications of why I was feeling the way I was, because by all accounts, I mean, I've gone through breast cancer. I have this master's degree now. You know, I should have been feeling on top of the world, but things just weren't going the way I thought they should go. So I just stopped doing anything and I went to this retreat. And I really had some really great breakthroughs during that retreat. And I was able to learn a lot of things about myself. And it's just very important to give yourself time to understand and learn about yourself, because you have to. You have to. Whenever you go through something tragic in your life, and I never at any point did I say, why me? I never had that moment where I said, why me? Why me? And I was listening to someone else the other day on live, and she was talking about breast cancer. She's a breast cancer survivor. And she was saying, why not you? You know, why not me? Use my story and use it as a life lesson for other people. Use it as an experience to teach other people about how critical it is to get your mammograms, get them very early, and to understand that it's something that you have to do. And if they do find something, fear is not going to take the diagnosis away. So if I had been fearful, because I was fearful, but I wasn't fearful enough for it to stop me from getting the treatment that I needed. So I went to this retreat and I was able to have all these different breakthroughs, and it was just amazing. And I was able to really understand a lot of things and just get some real clarity on what I should be doing with my life and what the next right move is for my life. And oddly enough, we titled this live, I Was Slowly Dying, before, breast cancer saved my life, and it really did. And I say that because I was probably in a place in my life where, like I said, I didn't know where I was going or what I should be doing. I just knew in my mind I should be doing this, but that really wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And my life shifted, and I had to pivot in a way that I've never had to pivot before. I think I've had about maybe 7 or 8 different critical points in my life where I had to shift and pivot. And my life is in such a way now that I can feel that natural progression when it's time to shift and when it's time to pivot. And a lot of times we don't get those warnings, but I think if you pay attention to your life enough, you start to understand the rhythm of your life, and you start to understand that, okay, there's something coming up. You don't really know what that is, but you prepare yourself for it by understanding and learning about yourself. So, getting back to the early detection, it's just really important. As African American women, we are diagnosed at a lower rate, but unfortunately we die at a higher rate because we don't seek treatment. If we're diagnosed with something, we don't seek the treatment. So we're dying at higher rates than any other race because we don't get the treatment that we should have once we're diagnosed. So I'm wearing this shirt today. You guys can see it. It says "Fight, Support the Cure." And literally anything, I'm the type of person when adversity comes on my path, I immediately start to push, and I push and I push and I push until I get to the other side. And I said to my mom, I can't wait until I get to the other side of this breast cancer, because literally I had to shift and pivot into a new norm. I went from, I think I probably was a size 38D, and I was, pretty big girl. And it was interesting, when I was going to get my implants, my doctor, my plastic surgeon said to me, Loronda, are you sure you don't want larger breasts? I said, no, please, just, keep it at a smaller cup. And, he did a wonderful job. And it's interesting, though, because when I went in to have the conversation with him about what everything would look like afterwards, and I've seen pictures, and he showed me pictures of how, when surgeons, they kind of cut across women, and they have all these scars and disfigurations on their breasts. But the way he did mine was he cut from here underneath, kind of like a smiley face, and then put the implants in. So you don't see a lot of scarring on the top. It just looks, fairly regular. But I don't know if you all know it or not, but your breast tissue goes all the way up to your collarbone. So they had to go in and take all of that breast tissue out in order to, make sure none of the cancer came back. And being diagnosed as stage 0, I didn't have any breast cancer in my lymph nodes, so it hadn't spread to my lymph nodes. And I didn't have any chemo, and I didn't have any radiation, which was a blessing, because I really, at one point they said, well, we might have to do chemo and radiation. And I think that was one of the things that upset me the most, was, thinking about having to go through radiation and chemotherapy. But, luckily I didn't have to have that. And I'm just, so thankful. There's so many people that are going through breast cancer and, being diagnosed, and it's a scary thing. It really is a scary thing. But if you go and get that mammogram every year like you're supposed to, it can be less scary. There's no reason to be fearful, because, anything that comes on your path that's adverse, it's not going to be there forever. And that's just kind of how I look at life. I may be dealing with a situation right now, but it's not going to be here forever. So, you just have to kind of push through the situation, as best you can, have as much support system as you can, regardless if it's breast cancer or any situation that's happening in your life, because we really want to be at a point where we can live our best life. And, for me, in 2013 was a critical year for me. It was a major turning point for me. During that women's retreat that I talked about, I did a vision board, and that vision board has been amazing for me for the last, several years. And in 2017, I added on to that vision board, because there were so many other things that I wanted to accomplish. So now I look back at those 2 vision boards, and so many things have just happened and evolved, and a lot of those things have come true. So even though me going through breast cancer, I'm here to still tell my story and to share my story. I've written 3 books, after breast cancer. This year has been amazing. I've been on TV and radio and different podcasts, and I've met some really amazing people. So, me being diagnosed with breast cancer wasn't a death sentence for me, and it wasn't a situation where I was just going to shrink into, being this person who was going to be depressed and just giving up on life, because I just don't have that within me to give up. I don't even know what giving up looks like. I really don't. I thought about that today. I thought about people that just, they give up. But when I look at it for myself, and I asked myself the question, Loronda, what does that look like for you? If you were to just decide that you were going to give up on life, what would that look like? And I just couldn't even come up with an answer. So, and I just really live by some really strict principles. And for me, it's all about my mindset and making sure that my mindset is in a place where it's positive, because it wasn't always that way. When I was younger, in my 20s, I was just depressed and, had negative thinking, and I really had to, get a hold of that and shift and pivot. And it wasn't an easy thing, because you grow up in a certain environment where you don't get that positive feedback, and a lot of what you hear is criticism and negativity. And if that's all you hear all the time, that's what you start to believe, and you start to believe certain things about yourself that aren't true. So, I would, as a teenager, I would sit in my room, I would immerse myself in just positive words and positive affirmations. I would sit and listen to Deepak Chopra for hours, and I would sit and listen to Les Brown for hours just to hear something I had never heard before. And it just kind of led me on this path of, self-discovery. And like I said, studying psychology, that helped me out tremendously in understanding myself and trying to figure out, why do I do the things that I do, and why do I think the things that I think? I wanted answers to those questions, because a lot of what I was thinking and what I was feeling, it didn't feel right. After a while, it just starts to feel uncomfortable. So I had to find another way to live. I had to find another way to think. And, those things really helped me a lot. I read a lot and just kind of poured into myself with positive affirmations and just kind of keeping things around me to keep me motivated and keep me inspired. And, here it is, fast forward 30 years later, I still do the same things. I meditate a lot and I read and positive quotes and affirmations. And when we talk about, like, living your best life and living the best possible life and the importance of living a good life, those are the things to me that are really important. And some of the things I jotted down in 2017, I had a declaration, and it was 6 things. And those 6 things were, I was going into the new year, and I said, I am not going to go into the new year with this mindset. I want to have a different mindset. And the very first thing I put for 2017 going into the new year, you have to decide what you want. That was the very first thing. You have to make a decision what you want your life to look like. If you want to have your best life, what does that best life look like? And for me, my best life, what that really looked like at the time was just being the best person that I could be in that moment, just being the best Loronda C. Giddens that I could be. So then that second step for me was, okay, this is what you say you want to do. You want to live your best life. And then the second thing is you have to commit to it. You may not know what your best life looks like. I was having a conversation with someone today, and we always know what we don't want, but a lot of times we don't have a clue what we do want. And for people that don't have a clue what they do want, for what I say to that is just kind of look around the world, and I'm not saying mimic other people's lives, but look around the world and see what you want your quality of life to look like. See what you want your life to look like. And to me, it doesn't have anything to do with anything material. It's really about just being able to give to people and to provide resources for people, because I feel like when I'm winning, everybody in my tribe is winning. And I told my best friend that today. We were kind of laughing and joking about that. And, that's really what it is. We're a family. So whatever resources I have, however I can help you, however you can help me, and that's just the exchange. It's reciprocity and mutuality. And that's really important for me. So, that first thing is just really figuring out what you want, and focus your energy on that. And when you do, commit to it. Don't just say you want your life to be this way, but you don't put in the work, because you have to take action. You have to put in the work. You've got to do it. No one can do it for you. And you have to do it consistently. You can't just do it for, 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You have to do it, and it becomes a habit. It becomes a way of living. It becomes a lifestyle, because you want it to look different, then you have to do something different. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday about, being stuck. And, I kind of thought about that for a minute, because a lot of people are just stuck in life. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. They know they don't want to be in their current situation, but they don't know where they want to go or what they want to do. And they're just in a situation where they're stuck. But for me, when I think about a person being stuck, it's just really, you don't have new tools in order to get to that new level, to whatever that next level of greatness is that you want to aspire to or you want to attain. You just don't have the new strategies yet in order to do that. So that's why I think people are stuck, because they just are trying to apply old strategies to new ways or new lifestyle, and that just isn't going to work. If you're stuck, then you've got to try something different. You've got to rethink your strategies. You've got to go back to the drawing board, start over, because what was working in 2010 is definitely not working in 2019 or 2020. It's just not going to work, because you're not the same person. So the person that you were in 2010, the person that I was in 2010, I'm not that same person. I'm not even the same person I was last week. My goal is always to better, to be the best person that I can be, whatever that looks like in that moment. So making a decision what you want, committing to it, and then you visualize what you want every single day of your life. My vision board is on my door. When I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing I see. And before I go to bed at night, that's the last thing I see. I stand in front of my vision board. My vision board is magical. I don't know about you guys, but my vision board is magical. It's like a magical unicorn. Everything that's on that vision board has been happening since I did it in 2013. And it's just an amazing thing that happens when you focus your energy and when you're intentional about living your life, how you can manifest those things into fruition. Those things they become tangible. So my vision board has a lot of energy on it, and it's just magical. That's all I can tell you. So the third thing is visualizing it. If you don't have a vision board, get yourself a vision board. If you don't know what a vision board is, Google it. Google it, and understand that when you do your vision board, be intentional about it. Putting a bunch of cars and houses and a bunch of things like that, to me, I don't have any of those type of things on my vision board. And the reason why I don't have anything against that. I like to live nice and, have nice things, but that's not my primary focus. I feel like when I'm walking in my purpose and I'm living my purpose and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, all of those things that I want will just show up anyway. So I don't focus on those type of things as it relates to my vision board. I focus on the intention of what I'm putting on that vision board and what I want to happen. So the fourth thing is you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that whatever it is you want your life to be, whatever you decided you want your life to be, you have to believe in yourself and know that it's going to happen. Even if no one in the world supports you, you have to believe that you can do whatever it is that you set your mind to. You can do whatever you say you're going to do. You just set a plan and you do it. And guess what? If you set the plan and it doesn't work, go back to the drawing board and start over, because there might be something else that you need to do. You might need to go and tweak something a little bit. You might need to, and it's constantly going back and looking and reevaluating. Well, okay, well, this isn't working. Well, maybe this is not the direction I need to be going in. Maybe I need to shift and do something else. So it's always a constant reevaluation. That's the thing with people. People really honestly don't want to do the work. A lot of times I have conversations with people and they just don't want to do the work. They don't know what they want. And if they do know what they want, they think it's too hard. They think it's, reserved for someone else. It's reserved for celebrities to be able to have all these different things. And that's just not the case. And it's just really interesting when I talk to people, especially my coworkers, they see me going off and doing photo shoots and doing TV and different things like that. And then I'm back at work on Monday morning, just, like it's no big deal. But it's interesting how they can see me going out and doing these things, and they can expect that I'm going to do great things and accomplish great things, but they can't see it for themselves. And I always tell them, I'm no different than you. The only difference is I've tapped into my gifts and my skills and my talents, and I use all of my experience, all of my life lessons, and I use all of those things to get me to my next level of greatness, because we all have a foundation that we already have. We already have experiences. We already have life lessons that we've learned. And I have used those life lessons and experiences to build a platform and to build a lesson plan as a guide for my life. And I just use those because I feel like everything that I've ever done before is connected to everything that I'll ever do. And it's the same thing for you. Nothing in your life has happened in vain, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Everything has happened for a reason. And being able to look at the life lessons from those situations and using that to elevate yourself to your next level of greatness. So believing in yourself and believe it can happen. And like I said, it's interesting how people can look at my life and believe that it's going to happen for me, but they don't believe it's going to happen for them. So believing in yourself, believing that it can happen, and you really have to just, regardless of what's going on in your life, don't let anything stop you, not even you. So at some point you have to get out of your own way in order to have this best life and to have this life that you want, to have the quality of life that you want. Don't be afraid to go for what you want. Because, I got to a point in my life where, and this was, shortly after I was diagnosed with breast cancer, I'm driving to work every day and I'm asking myself the question, I know that there's something else that I should be doing with my life. I know that, this isn't it. I know there's something more to my life and I want to know what it is. So I started asking those questions. Well, what is it? What is it that I'm supposed to be doing with my life? And I literally, absolutely, Sharon, you have to get out of your way. And I literally had to get out of my way in order to do the things that I wanted to do. And getting out of your way, what that really looks like is your thinking. like your mindset. And I tell people a lot of times, if you want to know where you're going to go, look at the thoughts that you're thinking. What are you thinking about? Think about what you think about. And I know that sounds real crazy, but we don't give a lot of energy or thought into the things that we think about. And we constantly are playing these same old tapes and recordings in our mind every single day. We wake up every morning, it's like we press the play button, and we just have the same scenes and scenarios playing over and over and over in our mind every day. And we have control over that. We have control over what we think and what we feel. We do. And, sometimes people just think, oh, well, I don't have control over my life, and it's just, so out of control. That's just not true. I don't believe that. And that's just the way it is. So I'm looking up because I'm looking at my mantra for 2018. So that was 2017. The mantra was, number one, deciding what you want, committing to it, visualizing it every single day, believing in yourself, believe it can happen, and regardless of anything, make that thing happen. Get out of the way. Don't let anything stop you, not even you. That was my 2017 mantra. So going into 2018, I had 3 simple ones, and those were live your best life, do it with intention, and walk in your purpose. And that's what I've been doing every single day this year, those 3 things. It was very simple for me. And you really have to develop a mindset of excellence, developing a mindset of perseverance, determination, and you have to stay motivated. You have to stay inspired. So whatever your source of inspiration is, whatever your source of motivation is, it's a daily work. It's a daily practice. It's like getting up, brushing your teeth every day. You don't get up and walk out of the house without brushing your teeth. You don't get up and walk out of the house without, combing your hair or getting dressed. So it just becomes a habit. You have to form new habits. You have to create new habits and incorporate new things and get rid of old things. So the old things that weren't working for you, get rid of those and replace those with new strategies, new techniques, new keys, new tips, whatever you want to call it. Replace those things with something new. Because in order to get to your level, that next level of your greatness, you've got to try different strategies because the old stuff just isn't going to work. So going into 2019, it's very simple for me. It's all about manifestation and attracting exactly what I want. Point blank, period. And to me, that's an energy thing. I feel like you put out a certain vibe, you put out a certain energy into the universe, and whatever it is that you're putting out there, you're going to bring that into your experience. So if you're experiencing a lot of negativity, then you've got to really look at yourself and see what you're really putting out there. What am I putting out there to draw this experience into my life? And that's, some of the things that you really need to think about. So that's what I'm going into 2019 with, manifesting every single thing that I want. So everything that didn't happen in 2018, going into 2019 with a vengeance, attracting everything that I want, period, point blank. So that's my talk. What questions do you guys have for me? Anybody have any questions for me? So Sharon said, get out of your way. John said, believe in yourself. Absolutely. What do you think? What you think is what you become. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Whatever you're thinking and whatever you're believing, you're going to manifest that into your life. Absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Any other questions or comments? I don't see anything else. Let me scroll up here. Okay, so it looks like no one has any questions or any further comments. I just want to thank you all so much for joining me this evening, and thank you, Sharon, once again for having me come on and have this platform to talk about breast cancer, because that's something that's really important. Again, ladies, go out there, get your mammograms, and make it happen. Let's see. So Stacy says, Loronda, if there's one thing you want us to remember from this broadcast, what would it be? The one thing that I would want you to remember would be to look at your life in a way that you never have before, and to dissect your life going into this new year. Let me just say this. This is a year for people to really receive the things that they have been asking for, praying for. This is the season where you can just really, it's a fertile time. It's really a fertile time, and I feel like whatever you want, whatever you manifest will happen. But you have to be in a mindset, first of all, to receive it, because a lot of times we ask for things, but we're not ready to receive it. We're just not ready to receive it. We ask all the time, why, I want this, I want this. But when that thing shows up, fear pops up, because when the things that you want start to show up in your life, you're going to have to continue to take action. So it's never a point where you're just going to be able to just sit and chill, because you just can't. You've got to take action. You've got to do the work. And I encourage everyone to do the self work. A lot of times we want to improve our skills sets. We go get training, we go to conferences, and we do all these different things to improve our skill sets for work. But what kind of self-work are you doing? And I believe that in order for you to grow as a professional, you have to grow personally. When you grow personally, you definitely are going to grow professionally. And I'm only saying that because it happens for me. When I'm doing well personally, when I'm doing my self-work, I excel at work, I excel in my business, and I excel, because I'm a 9-to-5er as well, I excel at work and in my business. And there's no two ways around it. And to me, that's the secret sauce. If people ask me, what is the secret sauce to life? The secret sauce to life is really knowing yourself and understanding yourself, what you're all about from the inside out. And I'm not just talking about just the outer you. We spend so much time in the outer you with the makeup and the hair and the clothes and all these different things. We will do that work freely. We'll spend lots of money doing that. And Sharon talks about that all the time. But we have to do that self-work. We have to go in there, because there's a lot of things that are going on inside of us that subconsciously we're not even aware, but we're responding and we're reacting in the world based on what's happening internally, and we're not even aware that it's happening. And, it gets a little deep. It gets, psychological. Sometimes you may need to go and get some counseling. You have to understand that. You really do. And if you need to get the counseling, and counseling is not taboo, that's something that you need to do, because a lot of people can't do that self-work by themselves. Sometimes people need help, and gaining that insight. And psychologists and psychiatrists, psychiatrists are prescribing medication, but psychologists are able to see things that you're not able to see. And it's not a matter of them telling you what to do. It's really about your own self-discovery. You're being led to the place where you need to go do some healing, or because a lot of us have gone through trauma. Every I don't know any person on this earth that hasn't gone through some level of trauma, and trauma looks different for everybody. But I just feel that understanding yourself is really the secret sauce to life. When you really get yourself and you really understand yourself, like, that's the key to life to me. And just really understanding what you came here to do. Every single person came here with a purpose. We all have something that we came here to do. And, through your self-discovery, you'll find out what your purpose is, or I like to say, you rediscover it, because it's always there. It's inside of you. It's just up to you to go in there and find out what that is. So that would be the one thing that I would say is key in just shifting your mindset, just thinking differently and moving differently in the world is really important. We can't keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting things to be different, expecting different results, because that's just a sign of insanity. So that's just my 2 cents on that. So does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, well, if not, we will go ahead and end the broadcast. Again, thank you guys so much for joining me this evening. Thank you again, Sharon, for the platform. And you guys see my name. You can just kind of click on it if you need to. Reach out to me. Feel free to do so. I encourage that. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful evening.